Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty One territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty Three territory. My name is Ian Mann, and I'm joined on the panel by Zoom today with Ms. Lynn Nesbitt and Ms. Valerie Garhan. The assessment department personnel today is Ryan Valderrama, and the administrative personnel is Tristan Berdine. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you may leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to an application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all of the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private to make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1, 3, 4, and 6 on our docket today. Mr. Bradeen, please affirm the assessors and the first applicant's testimony.
Of course. Sir Assessor, please state your full name.
Ryan Valderrama.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
The first item on the list today is street address of 1476 Portage Avenue. I see from the agenda that there are 3 items at issue, that being liability taxation, amount of assessed value, and classification of property. Is that correct, Mr. Neufeld? Mr. Valderrama? Those 3
Yes,
issues are live.
Maybe I'll speak first. Yes, that's correct. That's what we filed for. This was in anticipation of a change in use. So we will not be following up with the class and liability on it, just the value.
Okay, thank you very much. That may streamline the hearing a little bit. Mr. Valderrama, then, if you would please lead us through your brief and provide your evidence with respect to the first item on the docket.
I thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item on the docket has a file number of 24-3987. 3987. The property has a roll number of 12080156-100. It is located at 1476 Portage Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2025 using reference date of April 1st, 2023. The assessed value is $2,963,000. The property is classified as an institutional property with a taxable school exempt liability. It has 1 to 2 stories, 2 sections, and an effective year built of 1980. The construction class is wood or steel framed exterior walls. with an average wall height of 10 to 12 feet. The zoning for the property is RMFM. It has a land area of 144,047 square feet. The planned area is 9,748 square feet and a gross floor area of 12,445 square feet. On page 2 is the aerial photo of the subject property. On the north is the road there is the Portage Avenue. On the next page is the cost valuation summary. It has a replacement cost new for the building of about $2,672,678, with an accrued depreciation of $2,137,678, which leads me to the depreciated cost of the building of about $535,000. The depreciated cost of the other detached structures total to $8,000. The total depreciated cost for building and detached structure is $543,000. The land value for the property is $2,420,000. And on page 4 is the cost summary by building sections. As mentioned, there are 2 sections. And on the next page are some land sale comparables. The first one is located on Roshni Bay. It was sold on July 16, 2019 for about $24.22 per square foot. The second comparable is located on Waterford Green Common. It was sold on March 10, 2014 for about $14.42 per square foot. The third comparable is located at 90 Waterford Green Common. It was sold on June 7, 2017 for about $15.75 per square foot. And the last comparable land sale, is located at 10 High Water Path, which was sold on June 7, 2017 for about $12.80 per square foot. On the next page are some detached structure details, and then the land valuation, which has a 40S or an institutional property with a taxable school exempt liability. The net area is 144,047 square feet. It has a net rate of $16.80, which was derived by model. And it has a total land value of $2,420,000. And on page 7, beginning of page 7, is the 2025 cost report for the subject property. And the rest of the pages, starting page 9, are some excerpts from the Municipal Assessment Act. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Boardroom. Mr. Neufeld, questions?
Yes. The site is a former church, correct?
I am unsure of the use back then, Mr. Chair, so I'm unable to answer the question, Mr. Chair.
I'm looking on your page 7.
Page 7, okay, I'm just gonna go down to it. Page 7. Okay, page 7, yep. Oh, the 2025 cost report. Okay, I'm on it.
Yes, it says occupancy 309 church.
Probably the building was. That's the initial design or the building itself. However, the previous use, I am unaware that it was a church, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, you have it costed part as a church, part as a dormitory.
That's correct. Those are the Marshall and Swift building codes. Yes, that's correct.
Right. So somehow that must have popped into the system. Are you disagreeing that it was a church with an attached residence for the religious order? That's what it's built for?
No, I'm not disagreeing, or nor
Oh.
am I agreeing. I'm more of like I don't have information of the previous use or on that for that matter, Mr. Chair.
Well, why is it being done on the cost approach then?
I believe it's due to the current use, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is what?
Sure. Let me see. Based on the exemption, the basis of the exemption is for seminary of learning,
Okay,
which is on page 9 of my brief, Mr. Chair.
does the cost calculation as a church transfer over to a seminary of learning in the Marshall and Swift system?
It's the building that's being that's the occupancy, the Marshall and Swift occupancy. So it's the building. It wasn't changed nor demolished. And that's the current building right now, Mr. Chair.
But then don't you have to claim for some obsolescence, some functional obsolescence, because you're costing it as a church, but it's used for something else. Aren't you, by our standards, required to then have have some depreciation for it? I think we went through this with the personal care homes. If you overbuilt something for a different use, you have to apply obsolescence. Did you apply any functional obsolescence?
No, I did not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And on page 2, this is the aerial view. Did you can you confirm where the entrances are?
Page 2. Entrance to the property.
Yes, that's correct.
It's on the north side of the top side of the picture, Mr. Chair.
And that is Portage Avenue,
I believe so, Mr. Chair. It is Portage Avenue.
and that is a eastbound lane. There's no median cut there for westbound, is there?
It is the eastbound lane. Yes, correct.
Okay. So if you're arriving from the east, like if you know the way, you can find your way. But it's a fairly difficult access, isn't it?
There's an access, however, it is by the loop here, on the bottom of the picture. It will be an overpass from the other side of Portage Avenue, Mr. Chair.
Right. So you cross over, you turn around on the road, and then circle back and come into eastbound Portage and entrance. Okay, so not typical, is it?
May or may not be typical, however, the access is there.
At the time it was in use for a church, were they sharing access with St. John's Ambulance on the west side?
I am not aware of that, Mr. Chair. I am unsure. No, I have no information on that one, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
Did you investigate the sale in 2016?
There's a registered sale on March 30th, 2016 on my page 3, Mr. Chair, for about $2,175,000. I don't have much further info on that one, but I believe it is the sale was done only on that date, and there's a sworn value, Mr. Chair.
And can you confirm that's from the Archdiocese, the Roman Catholic Archdiocese, to the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority?
I am not sure of that information, Mr. Chair. I don't have that on my page 3.
Did you get a copy of the title?
I didn't attach, or I don't have the copy on my brief, Mr. Chair.
Okay, as a sale between two institutions, did anybody do any scrutiny on the transaction to determine if it met the standards of market value?
Personally, I didn't do any research on the sale, as it is a dated sale back in 2016, which I believe is a day before the April 1st, 2016, which is the reference date of 2018. The 18 general reassessment, I should say. Sorry.
Okay. Is there a facility on there operated by the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority?
All I know is it is a college seminary, as college or seminary of learning based on the exemption under this section of the act. In my brief, Mr. Chair, I don't have the information on who's occupying it as of now.
I sent it to you, but I'll ask you, can you confirm it's the Winnipeg Conservatory of Music?
I don't have that in my brief, Mr. Chair, so I'm not sure. If the applicant wishes to speak about it, then I'll wait for his evidence, Mr. Chair.
What? Okay, so you don't have any details on the exemption then? All you're gonna say is it's for seminary learning? You don't know who's got it or what it's for then? Is that your statement?
It's not in my brief, Mr. Chair. It's unfortunately the information is not here, so I cannot affirm nor deny if it is whoever is occupying or whatever organization is occupying the property, Mr. Chair.
No more questions.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Neufeld.
you.
Ms. Nesbitt, have you questions?
I have questions about the land value, Mr. Valderrama.
Yes, ma'am.
The land value, you have 4 comparable properties, land value, none in the area.
Right.
Were you unable to find any in the area, or was there any in the area?
The main reason why these comparables were chosen were based on zoning, for one. I was looking for something comparable within the area of the same zoning and at the same time the land area. It's difficult to find something of 144,000 square feet that's sold within the area and also zoned as RMFM, which is multifamily zoning.
Okay.
And in that case, I just I chose whatever that's similar in zoning, and I was hoping to get a bigger land area, a sale or sales with bigger land area closer to 144,000. However, I only have one on my comparable sales.
Yeah, only one is over 100,000 square feet.
That's correct.
And the sale on one sale is from March 10th, 2014.
That's correct.
That's 10 years ago. Do you feel that's a relevant sale?
Observing or looking at the trends, it feels that it may have been a dated sale, of course, and as reflected in the sale per square foot at that time, ma'am. As we go along the timeline of these sales, the 4 sales, we can see the sale per square foot seems to be trending upwards.
Okay, so are these sale prices time adjusted or no?
These sale prices, I believe, madam, are not time adjusted.
Okay. So would it be your expectation that prices would have increased over time, or would they? Can you speak to that?
2 ways or 2 things. First is in theory, the less land available, of course, they become more scarce and more pricey in terms of how the market would look at it. And second is that just observing what's going on with all the land sales that I have, it looks like it's trending upwards, madam.
And sorry, how can you tell it's trending upwards from this? I see the 2019 is
$24.22 per square foot. And then 2017, the 2 in June might be a little bit of an anomaly in terms of the $12.80. However, if we look at the 2014, 2017, and 2019, they seem to be trending upwards.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wareham. Questions?
I take it, sir, by your answers that Mr. Neufeld, the questions Mr. Neufeld asked you, you did not inspect the property or been in the subject property?
No, I haven't been, and I haven't inspected the property.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Valderrama, I've got some questions about the replacement costs new. Is that simply based on the square footage and the type of, I'm looking at your page 9 here.
Page 9.
Sorry, is that RCN replacement costs new? Is that based on the type of structure or the use the structure was put to, and then just plugging in the square footage to get the rates?
Yes, on page 7, yeah, it's based on the Marshall and Swift occupancy or building code 309 and 321. So those are the basis of the RCN or replacement cost new.
Okay, and then the normal depreciation is derived from those tables as well, is it not?
Yes, they are all derived from there, based on the age.
Okay, and the location, I'm looking at page 2, and we've had some information about the loop as it was referred to and the eastbound portage. Is this immediately south of the east end of Polo Park Shopping Center?
I believe it is, Mr. Chair. It is the other side of Polo Park Shopping Center, Mr. Chair. It's east of St. James, if I may add to that.
East of St. James Street?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr.
you.
Neufeld, your evidence, please.
Wait, sorry, where am I here? Okay, thank you. The property is a former church. It was the Catholic denomination, and the quarters were attached for, I believe it's an order of nuns. In 20, I guess the date that the assessor had as a sale, they put it up for sale, and it was purchased by Winnipeg Regional Health Association. And this right away brings forward the question, their purchaser was not another church. Their purchaser was someone who just wanted the land. The church was at the end of its life. So in the cost approach, that means it's been fully depreciated. You can't give it a value because the purchaser gave it no value. You can see from our information, we've given you the history of the church. It was the Selinger government had said, build another PCH, and WHA bought the land. The Pallister government didn't do anything on it. And now maybe our new NDP government has said, well, maybe we're going to do something, but no real plans yet. But it was purchased for a personal care home. It begs the concept of the method of valuation when someone buys something for land and completely ignores the improvement in that value, but the assessment is based on value emanating from an obsolete structure. Now they are getting revenue from this tenant. It's the Winnipeg Conservatory, who leased the entire site for $24,000 a year. So if you cap that, that's not going to put a lot of value in the land. You're talking about $200,000, $300,000. That's what it's generating as an income producing property. Again, the improvements have no value. This is an interim use until such time as the WHA gets the financing for building another personal care home. And as a result, when you look at properties like that have reached the end of their life, you change your method of valuation. No value comes from the structure Therefore, no value should be given to it on an assessment. It no longer meets the highest and best use. The highest and best use is now land for an institutional use. That's the correct theory here. So what we're saying is the market and the users and the purchaser have indicated there is no value for these improvements. And if there was a value, it's 1/10 of the land value. So that doesn't meet the highest and best use. So that's why we would just like to have the improvements removed entirely from the value. Well, most church sales don't get tested in the market as to the assessments because they're all exempt. Nobody looks at them at all. Here we have one that was tested by offering it for sale. It failed the test. No market on the buildings. It was essentially abandoned, and the value in the land was given the primary for the future use. We looked at a couple of different ways. We're not taking great differences with the assessor's land sales, although they are from a different area. And I really disagree with him. They don't show any pattern of land increasing over time. Take a look at number 2 and number 4, same size. The newer sale sold for $2 less a foot than the older sale. So there's nothing to suggest that there's a change in value. And we're looking at what was originally paid for the land, which was 2.1 million. Sorry, that might not be the precise number. It's 2,175,000. That's what was paid for. It's being held until such time as financing comes through or funding comes through for a personal care home, and that's its value. It's called an interim use. And the holding time, the offset of the revenue from the conservatory is barely, no, it doesn't even, it's very close to offsetting the taxes on the property. And that is the purest definition of an interim use you'll ever see. You have a use that covers your costs until such time as you're ready to develop. That is the highest and best use. So we'd like it, land value $2,175,000, and that's our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Valderrama, questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So Mr. Neufeld, you are in an opinion that the market or the land value did not increase from the time of purchase of March 2016.
I think that there's no proof that it has. This is a real specialized piece of land. It's got a very strange location. So there's absolutely no interest in this site for a retail whatsoever. And many other uses will not care for its poor access. The personal care home seems to be about the best. So you don't have an active market of buyers, which means that there's the concept of market value increases supply and demand. If you don't have demand, how can you have an increase? We had one demand years ago, and that's it.
In terms of demand, you're in an opinion as well that a zoning of a multifamily for this property has not much demand in the market.
I'm just sorry, I was just double checking the zoning here. C2, so you can do RMFM on it. When it was put up for sale, there was no interest for multifamily from it. Oh, I know why. I forgot. Airport protection zone legislation. It's in zone 2 of the airport protection plan. And if you've been reading the conflict between the potential development in Polo Park, there's not much interest in acquiring this, but because of the airport protection. And there's 2 issues there. One are height restrictions. Now, it is not on the approach for runway 31. It is immediately east of the extended center line, but the airport vicinity plan was designed to accommodate aircraft coming from all directions and landing with their modern instruments. Sorry, and I'm not making stuff up here. I was an air traffic controller for quite some time. I know what I'm talking about here. So you're not going to get any interest in a high rise here because you likely won't get approval. And the second problem is the noise protection. So you'll have higher costs to build. And the third problem is the access isn't great. You will have to deal with getting approval from the city for getting any sort of high volume access on Portage Avenue. They're not going to be very interested in doing that because it's a one-way. There's no turn into it. It's an island. It's best suited for a low volume usage, and personal care home is probably about the best you could hope for something like this. So that's my long answer.
And that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warren, questions?
I'm none, thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I have some questions, Mr. Neufeld, with respect to start at page 1. You have a photograph showing Empress Street, Portage Avenue, east and westbound. It's an aerial photograph with the pin, presumably from Google Maps, in the subject property, 1476 Portage. You see
Yes.
where? Okay. Immediately to the right of that picture, which would be east of the subject property, there is a rectangular building. That is a multi-story, multi-family residence, is it not?
Let me just take a look at that. It is, oh, I'm just looking at the Google Earth on this. I don't have a, oh, look at this. I got to zoom in. Yes, that is correct. It's just wanted to see what it was. There's a name here. One second.
I don't need to know the name of it.
Well, I think it might, I think it might be pertinent. It's called Donwood West, and I believe Donwood is the name of a seniors residence.
The fact that there is a resident.
Yeah, it's a home for the aged and infirmed.
And that wouldn't affect, in your opinion, the valuation of the other property at 1476 immediately west of that?
Well, it's another institutional operation, right? It's not a market. It's run by a charity, and it's for providing living for people who don't need a great deal of care. They're still living independently. I'm doing work for Donwood on their PCH homes. I forgot the name of the church, but it really just confirms what I'm saying, that this is a site for a low volume operation like this, either a retirement home or a personal care home, and they're frequently side by side. They have low traffic, and you know, it's not a Shoppers Drug Mart or a McDonald's or anything of the sort. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a limited market application.
Thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Valderrama, any summary?
No, there's no need for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Neufeld, any summary?
I'm just going to repeat myself, but essentially I am applying the correct theory here, in that when you have an improvement that was built for another purpose and it was sold on the basis of its land only, the market has spoken and said the improvements have no value. The highest and best use lies in the land alone, and the land That's what drove the transaction. And we have a sale on it, and it's a holding use until such time as funding becomes available. There was no market interest for it when it was put up for sale. Because of its location qualities, it is suited for institutional use. There will be a limitation on its development. You will not get a high rise. The place next door is a 8-story building, and that I can tell you that that is below the glide slope for incoming to the runway, which is at this point 216 feet above ground level. So the 8-story home is about 110 feet above ground level. Those are the restrictions that it places on it, and I would just ask that the value be placed on the land alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Having heard the evidence, we will conclude that matter. You will receive the decision in short order, Mr. Neufeld. I believe that's your only matter today. Thank you for
Thank you.
your time.
Yeah, okay.
We will move on to the next matter on the list, please. That's item number 3 at street address 266 Linwood Street. Mr. Dean, would you please swear in Mr. Lyman?
Mr. Ryan, please say your full name, Carol Farmer. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. If we could please turn to item number 3, street address of 266 Linwood Street.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Next item on the docket has a file number of 24-2353. It has a roll number, or the property has a roll number of 07051712200. The property is located at 266 Linwood Street. The roll year that we're dealing with is 2025, using reference date of April 1st, 2023. The assessed value is $125,000. The classification of the property is an other property with a liability of taxable or fully taxable. The property has 1 story, 1 section. It has an effective year built of 1954. The construction class is wood or steel framed with an average wall height of 12 feet. The zoning is a PR2. It has a land area of 3,893 square feet, a plan area of 2,214 square feet. And the property the picture is on page 2. And the next page 3, is the cost valuation summary. It has a replacement cost new for the building of about $473,000, $407, sorry. And it has an accrued depreciation of $378,407. It has a total depreciated cost for the building of about $95,000. The land value is sitting at $30,000, and the total value under cost methodology is $125,000. On page 4 is the cost summary of the building. And on the next page, page 5, is the land sale comparables. First one is located on Marion Street. It was sold on March 7th, 2014 for about $15.92. Next comparable is located at 315 Sage Creek Boulevard, was sold July 29, 2013 for about $3.63 per square foot. And the last comparable is located on North Drive, which was sold on February 20th, 2018 for about $5.69. The land is, again, has 3,893 square feet. It has a net rate per square foot of about $7.71 per square foot based on model. And it has a total land value of $30,000. And on page 7 is where the 2025 cost report is. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And just to clarify, is valuation, amount of assessed value the only issue here, or is it classification, liability, and taxation as well?
I can assist in that, actually.
Okay.
We're not taking issue with the assessed value, at all, so I have no questions. And, yeah, the crux of the issue is liability and classification, which I'll speak to, in due course.
Thank you. Then, Ms. Nesbitt, have you any questions? You're muted, Ms. Nesbitt.
Questions on value?
Not on value. It appears as though assessed value is not an issue
Okay.
anymore. That's correct. So.
Okay. Mr. Valderrama, you noted that it's a 60 taxable. Who is this property used by?
The property is owned by the school division, St. James Assiniboia School Division.
Yeah. And who is it used by?
I am unsure. I didn't take a look at. I wasn't able to inspect the property, so I'm
Okay.
assuming it's gonna be the school division.
All right, so you're unsure
No, yeah, I
who
am.
the current user is.
Yeah.
You're making an assumption it's used by St. James School Division, but you're not sure?
No, I'm not sure. Sorry, no.
Okay.
Don't have that information.
Okay. Then I guess I'll wait to hear from the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Warren, questions?
Just along that same line, you've got the owner here as St. James Assiniboine School Division number 2 with a Westwood Vocational Center. Is
Right,
that a
that's correct.
separate, are those separate?
I believe the reason why there were two in here is because Westwood Vocational Center may be leasing. However, I don't have that information with me. I'm not sure if it's leasing or not, if it's part of St. James Assiniboia School Division, but I don't have any information with regard to that matter, so I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm looking at your overhead picture on page 2, Mr. Valderrama. This is a lot larger area than the 3,800 plus or minus square feet and the building of 2,200 square feet. Which area is it that we are concerned with here? What is the subject property? Because I think this whole area is Linwood School, is it not?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Chair. I just wasn't I'm not sure which part. There's just certain section I believe on this property, Mr. Chair, but I'm not specifically sure, as the mapping is giving me or providing me the entire school, not just the portion of it.
So whether or not the area that the subject property is a separate parcel from the school or part of the school itself, you can't tell us?
No, I'm unable to tell on the mapping or on the picture, the mapping tool that I'm using to come up with this picture, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll provide some quick comments concerning your last set of questions, if I might. This is actually, it's a little odd because when you type in 266 Linwood in the department's website, what gets returned are 2 roll numbers. You've identified the situation exactly right. The main roll number is Linwood School, and that's hence on page 2 of Mr. Valderrama's brief. This is the entire site that has Linwood School and the subject we're going to be talking about this afternoon. So the roll number that I'm referencing in my materials is for this parcel site or this portion of the site, which is the separate small separate building of 2,200 feet and the land area of roughly 3,900 feet. So it's sort of a subset within the much larger site, and that's the focus of the discussion today. If you look, and I apologize, I should have put an overhead in and I didn't. If you go to Mr. Valderrama's briefly on page 2 with the overhead, there's a wee little building that is obviously towards the northern part of the site, and that's, I believe that's the 2,800 feet we're talking about under this separate roll number for this component only. What I will also tell you then, as I mentioned earlier, the discussion this afternoon in our submission relates purely to liabilities, taxation, and classification, and not as to value, where we take no issue with the assessed value of the property. If I could ask Mr. Chairman, the board members, and Mr. Boardroom to turn briefly to our page 2 of our submission. And so as I say on the top of that page, it's part of the larger site for Linwood School. The school itself is under the separate roll number ending in 400, and the subject is the roll number ending in 200, being the subset of the main roll. This is the 2,214 square feet and a notional land area applied by the department, 3,893 feet, which we accept. I have confirmed, and I believe the question was raised, whether this was part of St. James Assiniboine School Division. And what I can confirm for the board members and Mr. Valderrama is it is not. This building is actually leased out to a third party called, and the exact legal name is Community Ambitions Day Service Winnipeg Inc., I believe. Let me just confirm that I've got that name exactly right. Yeah, Community Ambitions Day Service Inc. is the lessee in this case, and it's their occupancy that is driving the submission that we're presenting to you this afternoon. They are a registered charity first and foremost, which is crucial for the considering the exemption in this case. Registered charity that's devoted to providing employment and vocational training for cognitively impaired adults to foster, and this is word for word from the website, to foster independence, self-reliance, and promote positive quality of life for the individual. So the exemption, Mr. Chairman, that we're asking the board to consider in this case is 23 sub 1 sub E, and that's listed briefly on that one page. It says subject to 25 and 26, which do not apply here. Real property is exempt from taxation for school purposes where the property is owned by or held in trust for, and it is used by, and this is the key part, of course, the charitable organization, primarily for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to aged, indigent, or sick persons to maximum exemption of 0.81 acre. That wording is, I'd suggest, somewhat antiquated, but the entire premise of the wording is to provide a registered charity providing assistance to disadvantaged individuals at the end of the day. And certainly we suggest that Community Ambitions Day Service Winnipeg Inc. falls within the 4 squares of that section. And we're therefore asking, Mr. Chairman, that the subject with the small building and the small land area that's been attributed to this parcel be exempt from school taxes for that purpose. Just very, very briefly, and my page numbering didn't come out, so I apologize. I'm going to quickly get my references here. So on pages 4 and 5, this is, so the roll number we're talking about is the one ending in 200, but of course on page 5, what you see on the department's map is the entire Linwood School site, which this is a very small part of. Then starting at page 6, included a number of pages from the website for this organization. And as you can see, I won't go through it word for word, I'll leave it for the board to consider, but this is an organization that is committed, and the whole reason for existing is to help disadvantaged individuals, cognitively impaired adults. On page 7, they talk about some of the things they do. They talk about the goals to provide opportunities to maintain skills, promote the acquisition of new skills, provide an environment that's conducive to personal growth and emotional well-being, and actually enhance the opportunities for potential vocational and community participation, whether through paid employment or volunteer employment. There's as noted there, a facility-based pre-vocational program. There's individual-based work experience and employment. Then moving to page 8, the objectives that they talk about on page 8, and specifically the developmental program at the bottom of it. The objective of that program is to provide the precise assistance that we're talking about, and that I suggest is within very squarely within the definition of or within the provisions of 23(1) D, talks about self-help, self-care, physical development, emotional growth, socialization, communication. So it's the organization is existing to help integrate as fully as possible these cognitively disabled individuals to promote their integration into society to the greatest extent possible. Pages 9 and 10, just some more information for about the organization. Page 10 was inserted just to confirm the address, which has the notional address of 266A Linwood, so the subset that we're talking about. And of course, the registered charity confirmation starting at page 11, confirming their charitable status. And so for those reasons, Mr. Chairman, we request that the board under 23(1) provide the school tax exemption based on the lease and the occupancy and the functions performed by Community Ambitions Day Service Winnipeg. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reimer. Mr. Boardroom, questions?
I have no questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Wareham, questions?
None, Mr. Chair, thank you.
And Ms. Nesbitt, questions?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. Reimer, 23(1) under the Municipal Assessment Act has three components to it. One is owned by or held in trust. One is used by a charitable organization, and one is the purpose. And you've clearly outlined that the use is there. You've outlined the charitable organization status is there, but I don't understand the owned or held in trust piece. Could you go over that?
100%, and I apologize, I should have put the case in, but if you recall, Mr. Chairman, the Wasso case was directly on point concerning that very issue. And what the courts determined in that case was that a leasehold interest was sufficient interest to be incorporated into the concept of owned by for the purposes of these exemptions. So notwithstanding that it's a leasehold interest and not a fee simple ownership, the Wasso case that was decided some years ago and that's been quoted very frequently is very, very clear that the leasehold interest is sufficient to attract the exemption as a notional ownership in this case.
Okay, thank you. This would just pursuing this a little bit further. What is a leasehold interest? Does it would that include, a 1-year lease, a 6-month lease, or does it need to have a period of time, a long-term lease?
I suggest for the period of it sort of flows into each other, because if you've got a 6-month lease, that would be sufficient to attract the exemption, but the exemption will only apply so long as the leasehold interest exists. So the attraction of the exemption would follow the leasehold interest for as long as it's in place and forever, wherever it might be. So to give you an example, this is a very good question because I encountered this recently. Let's say you had this organization who was here for a 6-month period under their lease and then decided they needed a bigger premises or decided to move. The exemption for this roll number would apply for and only for that 6-month period. But of course, if they decided to go to a different property and lease space there, the exemption then would be lifted from this property because the leasehold for this organization is no longer there. But the exemption, because of the functions that they perform and the fact that they're a charity, the exemption provisions would follow them to their new premises, provided that they, and assumingly if they're in the space, that they would lease, they are leasing the space and or owning the space, and the exemption would follow them there. So I understand, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Nesbitt's question, but I don't believe the whether it's 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, to the extent that the leasehold interest exists, which it does in this case, the exemption would apply for, but only for that period in which the leasehold interest is actually there.
Okay. Okay, you've clarified that for me, which I appreciate. Did you bring a copy of the lease?
I asked for a copy of the lease and I was unable, I wasn't provided with one in time for the submission, but I can state categorically The advice that we've been given is very clear, and the materials also reference this. The occupancy of this entity at 266A Linwood. So I'm certainly very confident that, notwithstanding the paper wasn't given to me in time, that this is, there's no doubt that this is the occupant that has the leasehold interest.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Reimer.
Mr.
No,
Reimer,
yeah,
So-
no additional questions by me.
Yeah, thank you. On that note, I was looking for the lease information as well. The parties to this lease then would be the St. James School Division and the charitable organization, is that correct?
Exactly right. St. James School Division was landlord and Community Ambitions Day Service Inc. as tenant, yes.
And when I was looking through the expenses of the charitable, I was looking for leasehold costs, and I'm unable to find it. I'm looking at your page 13. I don't believe the site goes into the details other than management and administration. Is the leasehold interest governed by the management and its administration expenses?
Well, my quick answer, Mr. Chairman, is I don't know, but certainly, again, they are in a lease for which they're paying rent. However, they categorize the expense. I did not pick up on that quite frankly. I didn't know that. Remind me, Mr. Chairman, you're on page 13.
Yes, top of page 13 is the expenses. But
Yeah, I see it. That I cannot explain as to why or if they were required to provide to the federal government through this charities registration, the actual rent, and if it's included in the management and administration. So the compensation below, of course, is very clearly demonstrated. I would suggest to you that one of two things has happened: either they haven't been required to, nor have they reported the rent, or it would be included in that management administration expense.
And how long has this Community Ambitions had the lease in place, or how long have they been part of 266A Linwood Street?
I don't know.
And I'm looking at the reporting period views
Yeah.
going back to 2020.
Yeah.
However,
I'm going to suggest so.
the effective date though is 1982.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest that it's certainly they were there last year and this year, but prior to last year, I do not know. I don't know if it was prior to that.
Thank you. I don't have anything further. Mr. Valderrama, any summary?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Wyman?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Then we will conclude that matter and move on to the next matter on the list. That's number 4. Street address of 491 Monroe Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes.
provide a brief commentary?
Certainly.
So 3 points of appeal, assessed value, liability, and classification. If I might speak to briefly liability and classification. Our intent had been to provide Mr. Valderrama with some additional information relating to the uses in this property, which was the subject of the court decision that I've attached, but I have not had a chance to provide or to verify everything I need to and provide to Mr. Valderrama. So with that said, I'm requesting confirmation of assessed or classification and liability under 54.1. And I can also advise that we do not take issue to this extent. We don't take issue with the assessed value of the taxable component at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. That having been said, thank you for those comments in advance. Mr. Valderrama, if you could introduce the property, the roll number, and give us a brief summary of the valuation, please. And we will continue on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next property on the docket has a file number of 24-2556. It has a roll number of 02040928000. The property is located at 491 Monroe Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2025 using reference date of April 1st, 2023. There are two assessments on the property. The first one has an assessed value of $5,858,000 with a classification of an institutional property with a liability of exempt. And the second assessment has an assessed value of $1,289,000 with a classification of institutional property and a liability of taxable. The property is a school with 1 to 2 stories and 9 sections. It has effective years built between 1953 to 2001, a construction class of masonry bearing walls with average wall height of 12 feet to 20 feet. It is zoned as PR2 with a land area of 487,994 square feet, plan area of 76,282 square feet, a basement area of 16,701 square feet, and a gross floor area of 105,775 square feet. And that's the summary of the property, Mr. Chair, on page 1.
Thank you, Mr. Reimer, given your comments on.
No questions.
Thank you. You have no questions. Ms. Nesbitt, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Wareham, questions?
None, thank you.
And I don't have any questions. In addition to your indicated confirmation, do you have anything else to add?
I do not.
Mr. Reimer?
Thank you.
Okay, and any need for summary, Mr. Valderrama?
I have none, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Reimer? Then we will conclude that matter and move on to the last matter on the docket today. That is at docket number 6, street address 1233 Wall Street. Mr. Valderrama, Mr. Reimer, you had
Would you
some
mind?
initial comment.
Thank
again?
you. This is essentially a repeat of my previous comments. Again, this property was the subject of the test case at Court of King's Bench, and the issue that was identified by the owner was it didn't have to do with a new exemption. It was rather an expansion of some functions that would, under the court decision, be considered exempt. I have not been able to verify the details or particulars of that. So at this time, I'm asking for a 54-1 confirmation as to classification and liability, pending receipt of that information. And I also can advise that I'm not taking issue with the assessed value of the taxable component. Thank you.
Thank you. Then taking that into account, Mr. Valderrama, could you please introduce the property and provide us a summary sufficient to provide us information for the decision we must make?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the last property in the docket has a file number of 24-2064. The property has a roll number of 13-012-110-300. The property is located at 1233 Wall Street. We're dealing with the roll year of 2025 using reference date of April 1st, 2023. There are two assessments on this property. The first one has an assessed value of $19,407,000 and is classified as an institutional property with an exempt liability. The second assessment has an assessed value of $7,010,000. It is classified as an institutional property with a liability of taxable. The property is a school with 1 to 4 stories with 9 sections, and it has an effective years built of 1950 to 2003, a construction class of masonry bearing walls with average wall height of 12 feet to 30 feet. The property or the land is zoned as M2. It has a land area of 1,274,212 square feet. The plan area is 121,121 square feet. The basement area is 11,546 square feet. And the gross floor area is 354,209 square feet. And that's the summary of the property, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, have you any questions? Ms. Wareham, questions?
None, thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. Mr. Reimer, given your comments, do you have anything further to add with respect to this property?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Valderrama, any summary required?
I don't have any summaries, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Reimer?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, then we will conclude this matter and you will receive our decision by registered mail in short order.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Having heard all matters today, we will conclude this hearing and adjourn.
Have a good day, all.